Namaskar, Sujal.
Namaste, namaste. Good evening, all. So I think Jekan
Sujal,
has...
should we wait for some time or shall we start?
No, we can start, Senthil. Jekan
Okay.
has already opened the gates. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, Sujal, you want to... I will leave it to you, how you want to take this forward. People are joining indeed.
Senthil, let us start.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Let me read. Sorry?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Let me read out the code of ethics. In this ISHRAE meeting, we will act with care, dignity, and consideration, upholding all values of trust, teamwork, meritocracy, and justice. We shall not exploit the society's forum for any commercial or personal gains and shall avoid all real or perceived conflicts of interest, and that our thoughts, words, and actions shall not besmirch the image and standing of ISHRAE. I would like to introduce our chairman, CC 3.0. Mr. Subramaniam Chandrasekhar is a lead fellow and carries out design consultancy in the field of HVAC&R, intelligent building management system, and sustainability with a background of over 40 plus years of professional experience in these fields. Has also served as a senior trainer in Train Academy in his previous assignments. I would like to introduce our Vice Chairman, CC 3.0. Mr. V. Sridhar is a first-generation entrepreneur with extensive experience in the HVAC and refrigeration industry, known for his technical expertise, leadership, and business acumen. He is also actively involved in skill development, conducting HVAC training programs for engineers and hands-on technician training in air conditioning and service and maintenance. I would like to introduce our convener, CC 3.0. Mr. Sheshadri Rangasamy has over 40 years of experience in the HVAC industry and is a certified energy professional. He is currently providing consultancy services and performance auditing under the name and style of Mrs. Enersave Solutions, operating across India, Africa, Asia, and Middle East. Myself, I would like to introduce co-convener for CC 3.0. I am a seasoned HVAC principal consultant with over 30 plus years of hands-on industrial experience, known for my deep technical expertise, dynamic leadership, and result-driven MEP solutions. I have successfully engineered and delivered complex HVAC systems across healthcare, academic, commercial, and industrial projects. Now I would like to introduce our speaker. We are privileged to welcome Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekhar, a distinguished ecological economist and a pioneering force in advanced citizen-led sustainability movement across urban India and beyond. Dr. Hariharan has been at the forefront of driving transformative initiatives focused on water and energy efficiency at both building and city scales. As a founder of the globally recognized WOW Action Forum, he has spearheaded a powerful people-centric movement that spans cities across South Asia, Africa, and the Americas, empowering communities to embrace demand-side water management through awareness, demonstration, and voluntary action. Through the WOW mission, he has enabled impactful public campaigns that integrate sustainability with everyday life, helping societies conserve water, reduce energy consumption, and lower carbon footprints while creating economically viable solutions. In addition to this global outreach, Dr. Hariharan plays a vital role in mentoring green leadership among industry professionals and academia through SANS and Foundation Green. The sustainability peer reviews have guided numerous projects towards achieving ambitious net zero water and net zero energy goals, shaping the future of resilient and climate responsive built environments. It is an honor to have such a visionary leader with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekharan. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Senthil Raj. Thank you, Sujal. To the
Most
rest
welcome,
of you,
sir.
I must tell you that Mr. Senthil Raj represents the Coimbatore chapter of ISHRAE. ISHRAE has 58 or 59 chapters, 3 of them in the Middle East. And the importance of this event is that it is part of a run-up that Sujal Shah, who is Pune-based, is sort of steering for the next CoOL conclave that is coming up in Coimbatore. Is that right, Sujal?
Yes, sir. Very, very much, sir.
So all the 4 industrialists who he profiled are all people who represent Coimbatore. And Coimbatore is an interesting city. It shares a lot of the characteristics of a Pune and of a Bangalore. Very gentle people. The weather is equable as it is in, say, Bangalore or in Pune. All 3 cities have suffered this massive boom in population. I think Coimbatore has suffered less than, say, Bangalore and Pune.
True. Very true, sir.
We suffer all the trials, travails, and tribulations of a city which used to be a pensioner's paradise. All 3 cities were a pensioner's paradise until 1980. So we have a lot in common, Mr. Raj.
Yes, sir. True, sir. Thank
Over
you.
to
Thank
you,
you so
Senthil.
much. Yeah, thank you so
Over
much.
to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to introduce Sujal Shah. Madam, it's our privilege to welcome Mr. Sujal Shah Seth, a dynamic business leader and an influential voice in the fire safety and manufacturing industry. As the director of New Age Firefighting Company Limited, she spearheads global business strategy and export operations, successfully expanding the organization's footprint to over 60 countries. Beyond her corporate leadership, Sujal Shah plays a pivotal role in shaping industry dialogue and advocacy. As president of the Fire and Security Association of India, Pune chapter, and zonal advocacy chair at ISHRAE, she actively contributes to advancing sustainability, decarbonization, and resilient built environments. Her influence extends into impactful national initiatives where she serves as a national convener of IPA Marathon, driving a large-scale water conservation awareness, and as a national chair, branding a digital media, strengthening engagement across platforms. A strong advocate for inclusive growth, she has also campaigned women's safety and empowerment through her leadership roles. As CSR head at New Age, she leads meaningful community initiatives focused on health and social welfare, reinforcing her commitment to purpose-driven leadership. Recognized with multiple prestigious awards, including the EEPC Star Performer Award and the Woman Power Entrepreneur of the Year, Sujal exemplifies excellence, vision, and impact. Please join me in warm welcoming Mr. Sujal Shah Seth for this wonderful program.
Thank you, Mr. Senthil. Thank you so much for.
Thank you. Most welcome, Sujal Shah, madam. Jaykant, can you please play the video?
Yes, sir. You may please.
I will stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, please stop your screen sharing.
CoOL Conclave majestically moves to Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu for its 3rd edition. Tamil Nadu has been at the forefront of India's industrial and economic growth. A state that doesn't just dream of sustainability, it acts on it and has pioneered great initiatives in this direction. Welcome to Coimbatore, the industrial heartbeat of Tamil Nadu, a city built on innovation, powered by industry and guided by the progressive and sustainable approach of industrialists. Known as the Manchester of South India for its textile legacy, Coimbatore has evolved into a multi-sector powerhouse, home to engineering giants, inspiring entrepreneurs, the mixer-grinder revolution, and a vibrant hub for healthcare, tourism, hospitality, and commercial space. Nestled at the foothills of the Queen of Hill Stations, Ooty, Coimbatore offers a unique blend of business and leisure. A green haven where eco-conscious living is not just an idea but a way of life. Here, decarbonization isn't an option, it's imperative. From green building codes to microforests, from energy-efficient infrastructure to restored lakes, sustainability runs through the city's blueprint. As part of the Smart City and Carbon Neutral mission, Coimbatore is leading in water restoration, solid waste management and energy efficiency. And now, it's ready to host the event that's shaping a sustainable tomorrow. CoOL Conclave 3.0, where bold ideas meet bold actions. Where innovation, inspiration and integration come together to shape a low-carbon future. This isn't just another conference. It's a call to action. A convergence of minds, disruptors, policymakers, thought leaders and future shapers. Dive into transformative strategies. Explore cutting-edge technologies. Forge powerful collaborations. CoOL Conclave 3.0. Innovate, integrate, inspire. Together, let's rethink our industries, redesign our systems, and revitalize our planet. Let this third edition be a defining moment in ISHRAE, India's decarbonization journey. Join us in Coimbatore. Be a part of this great net zero initiative from ISHRAE. The future is calling. Are you ready to answer?
So you can proceed with your presentation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandil. Thank you so much for the introduction as well as, showing us through the video of CoOL Conclave 3. So as our audience is aware that we had 2 editions of CoOL Conclave, which were a huge success. The first one happened in Jaipur and the second one happened in Indore. And now we are all geared up. The team is putting in a lot of efforts in the background for the third edition as well, which is going to happen in Coimbatore. And as a part of, an extension to CoOL Conclave 3.0, what we thought was we should have this series of webinars or fireside chats. And today we are here for one such fireside chat. However, yesterday while I was talking to Mr. Hariharan, we discussed that, fireside chat would not be a very great word to be used for these conversations. We should rather, rename it as CoOL Samvad. And I think, I really loved the idea. So going forward, we will be calling this series CoOL Samvad instead of fireside chat or webinar series. So on that note, good evening, everyone. And welcome to CoOL Samvad. And let us also, welcome Hariharan sir, who agreed and accepted to come on this platform and have a conversation with us. Now today, on this platform, the conversation is going to move beyond the systems. We are going to talk about shaping the future of our built environment. And so basically the intent is very simple, yet strategic. We are trying to bring together the thought leaders who challenge the conventional thinking and spark the dialogue that leads to the real world impact. So as our cities, continue to grow and evolve, sustainability can no longer be addressed in silos. I think everybody would agree with me when I say that the intersection of water, energy, and infrastructure, it is becoming increasingly critical. And it is this integrated perspective that will define the next phase of urban development. So today's discussion, it is not going to be just about managing the resources, because we have been doing that since many, many years now. But it is about, reimagining them. It is about aligning them with our decarbonization goals at large and building systems that are resilient, efficient, as well as future ready. So on that note, sir, I would like to, start with my questions. My first question.
Before you do that,
Yes, sir.
Sujal, let me add, for the sake of our audience here, that what you said about the fireside chat and the cool Sambad is seriously important in the larger context of what we inhabit in India. I come from 13 degree north. If Mr. Senthil Raj is today in Coimbatore, he is at 11 degree north or so. And she in Pune will be at approximately 17 degree north. And you know the number of kilometers between each latitude. Now, if you go beyond 30 degree north, you hit cooler climes. For about 50 years, from 1950 to I would reckon about 2010 or even 2020, the need for heating rooms in Europe and the United States, and possibly a little bit in Japan, was far higher than the need for cooling in India and countries like this, Indonesia, for example, closer to the equator and all of that. What has happened, therefore, is today we face a very grim situation of our having to cool more than we need to heat buildings. And the business of cooling rooms costs you a lot more energy than heating a room, right? And therefore, what we have between now and I would reckon about 2070, since the government of India has said 2070 is net zero target and all that, I would reckon we have in the next 45 years a very, very serious challenge of how we will cool without carbonizing. Yes, Sujal, over to you.
Very, very true. Very true. So, sir, that, brings me to my first question. How do you think we should define, true value of water in urban India today? Are we still treating it as a utility rather than a strategic or a finite asset?
Okay, I will make a confession to the rest of the viewers here that between Sujal and I, we conspired yesterday, or was it the day before? And we said we'll put up a rapid fire list of, I think, about 23 or 24 questions. Sujal knows the right number. So all we are going to do over the next 30 minutes is take these 20 odd questions, which we believe are as relevant and vital for your understanding of your work as a professional in the industry in India today. And therefore, let me now get to, shall we say, responding to Sujal's question. Her question is, how do you define the true value of water beyond money, price, cost, and so on? Let me go back to a man called Patrick Geddes, a Britisher who was in India at that time between 1919 and I think between 1900 and 1931. Off and on, he spent about 19 years in India. He wrote a small tract or a monograph in 1926 where he talked of the ecological value of water, and he said any price, industrial price, should include the ecological cost of such production. If you look at it in today's terms, for example, all you have to do is pick up a 1 liter water bottle that you buy today at maybe 20 rupees per liter. Is that right? Now, is that the price I ask of you? When you buy a bottle of water at 20 rupees, is that the true value of water? Or is it just the cost of your manufacturing and marketing it? Now, the world as you and I know it will become extinct very soon at the rate at which we are, shall we say, decimating all of our natural resources with that same ignorance of the value of water. Every civilization, Indus, Mayan, Incan, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Babylonian, many of them, all of them died because of their neglect of water and their forests. That is truly the value of water for me. The earth will live beyond us, that you and I know. Humans, you and I as a species, and then the rest of the living species on earth will die because of us. What we call the Anthropocenic kind of age that we are in today. Now, if you look at value of water in the immediate term, for example, the next 10 years, if I'm living in, say, a Bangalore, which is at 14 million, a Coimbatore, which is at, say, 3 million or so, a Pune, which is at about 5 million or 5.5 million today. Now, what is the value or the cost of water there? I would reckon that if you don't have water in your cities, in these next 10 years, business will gravitate out of your city. your GDP will fall. Today, Bangalore's GDP is about 10% of India's 4 trillion. We are therefore at about $400 billion. In 1991, when Manmohan Singh gave us economic independence, we were at 200 or $180 billion. Today, Bangalore alone generates $400 billion, right? Now, if you don't have water in this city, or we don't have the right water infrastructure at that intersect, like she said now, of water and energy, you are going to lose capital from outer cities like Bangalore or Coimbatore or any other city. Delhi, for example, is at the edge of the desert. I was there last Friday and Saturday for another ISHRAE meeting. And what did I find? I find that you step out of this air-conditioned hotel, and the air that hits you is like in an oven or in a steam engine when you open the doors of the coal shovel. That is how hot it is out there. Now, for example, that mega AI sustainability plant, AI plant, whatever hub that they're setting up in Visakhapatnam, it will cost the next generation and the generation after. Grandchildren of those people in Vizag today will pay for it in 2070 if they set up that hub in Vizag. That is going to cost a nuclear bomb when it comes to water. Let's forget money. Let's talk water. That is the true value of water for me, Sujal.
So, sir, talking about, the pricing and the behavioral reality, are we fundamentally mispricing the water in India? And is that what is driving the overuse and inefficiency?
Well, I will ask you back. Does pricing really matter? It does in some ways, and it does not also. Let me explain that. In Telangana, for example, residential water users in Hyderabad pay nearly nothing, but commercial and industrial water users pay as much as 28 paisa per liter. For example, in Bangalore, if I'm buying a tanker of water, I will pay about 10 or 12 paisa per liter. I don't know how much you pay in Pune. I suspect that you pay in Pune up to about 15 or 18 paisa per liter. And I'm sure the story is not any different in Coimbatore. Now, at about 10 paisa per liter, it becomes economically viable. Now, your question is mispricing of water. I would say that if all our water Jal Nigams and water boards decided to see that they keep their pricing at about 10 or 12 paisa per liter, it will become economically viable for us to nurture an ecosystem of innovations, which can create, in turn, water assets that will generate what I call alternate or non-fossil water, while it will, of course, ensure the avoidance of bore wells, tankers, and grid water, which are the three sources of water for any building. Let's face it. Why is it wrong or not appropriate or not feasible for you to use borewell water or tanker water or the long distance supply water that you get from your grid, city grid? I will not answer that. You can look up some website and find out. The cost of energy for a city, Sujal, you know this well, will fall dramatically by at least 50% for all segments of water users. Make that difference of ensuring that they get this pricing ecosystem, which will nurture innovation, as I said. I can give you many more examples, but we will save it for another time, beyond this 1 hour that we have got. Yeah.
Right. So looking ahead, how do you see India's water landscape evolving over the coming decades? I mean, are we moving towards resilience really, or are we moving towards a deeper structural crisis?
Serious question. You're right. India's water landscape, where is it headed in the next 40 years, let us say? Let's remember one more interesting thing, all of you as participants here, and I'd like you to think about this. There was a paper produced by a bunch of researchers in Seattle about 5 years ago, which said that from 2024 to 2064, the Earth's population, our global population, will touch something like 9.8 billion, nearly 10 billion. And India will be at about 1.67 or 1.7 billion, which is how much? 1670 million million people, sorry. Now we are at about 1470, we are moving another 200 million people in 40 years. And then what happens between 2064 and 2100, in about 36 years, India's population falls dramatically from this 1.6 billion to 0.9 billion, or about 900 million. China's population, which will be about the same as India's, falls to something like 780 or 750 million people. Why? I believe, and the report, I can share that report if any of you ask Sujal to connect with me. It comes out of women literacy and a few other factors like that, and not out of any disaster. There's no such disaster coming about. There's no Armageddon. It is just that women literacy alone is going to make that difference in the population dropping as dramatically, is one point that I wanted to raise. The other is this on the water landscape. And this is another 30 seconds for this. India's water landscape over the next 70 years, let us say, or 75 years to 2100, will depend upon only one thing. Think about it. How do we ensure that we put all water into a loop of growing your own water? How do you do that? If you're in an apartment, say, of, I will take only 150 flats. I will think 600 liters to a flat. That's about 100,000 liters, or about 36 million liters in a year. How do you stop taking it from a borewell, from a tanker, or from some Jal Nigam? Instead, how do you put this water in a loop is the question that you have to ask yourself. And there are easy solutions for it. This essentially means that all used water goes back into a cycle for treatment to the highest grade of water that you can achieve, which is better than the best bottled water that you can buy on the marketplace. I don't know why we foolishly pay for that bubble can, some 5 rupees or so, which is the equivalent of 250 rupees per 1,000 liters. Or you buy this stupid bottled water, which means if it is 20 rupees for 1 liter, you're paying 20,000 rupees per 1,000 liters. Crazy. Is this what you want to do? How do you know that the water that you pay at 20 rupees per liter is actually safe to drink? Have you gone to the source of any such manufacturer like Bisleri and others to find out where they source their water? And if you did, let me assure you this, you will never buy that bottle of water once again. You must also realize that drinking such RO water primarily is unhealthy and in the long term does no good for your health and your system. Then what are we doing with our current water landscape? What do we do to change this to ensure that we avoid what Sujal called the deeper, what did she call it?
Crisis.
Structural crisis, she called it, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
how do we move towards resilience? There are many ways of moving towards these things. We will talk about as we go along, Sujal. Yeah.
So you think that it is still underestimated in terms of scale and impact, right? The crisis is still underestimated. Is that
Seriously,
right to say?
seriously, in terms of scale, in terms of impact. Okay, let me look at what the water crisis in India, wherever you are coming from as participants today, and I know you represent multiple cities. Let me offer a note over the next 1 minute. In response to what Sujal has asked, she's asking me, how serious is the water crisis in India today? Right? Are we understating it or underestimating it? The crisis of water in India is not about availability of water at all. If you are from Ahmedabad, you are from Jaipur, you are even from, say, Jaisalmer in the desert, you will get water at 200, 280, 300, maximum 380 feet. Okay? It is only in the highly abused water zones of cities like Bangalore that I inhabit that you will find groundwater at some 1,500, 1,600 feet. And even that will be only in the outlying areas because it's a plateau. In the central zones of Bangalore, for example, I can still get water at, say, 200 feet. Right? Now, the other challenge is, it's like this. The challenge is really not so much about availability of water. It is the high TDS content in water. Now, many of you who understand water will know that TDS is the dissolved salts in water. In Ahmedabad, for example, I will go back to Ahmedabad. I find that we are just now guiding somebody into doing something there on water efficiency. And I find that water that you draw at about 280 feet or 300 feet, available in plenty, reasonable plenty. You get about 4,000 liters per hour. You draw for, say, 12 hours from a pump, from such a borewell, and you'll get about 50,000 liters. You put 3 or 4 of them, you've got 200,000 liters if you want 200,000. Okay. Now, where is the challenge? The TDS in such water lies between 1,200 and 1,600 ppm. So what does that mean? You cannot drink it. If you drank that water, at 1200 or 1600 TDS, your system is going to be crippled over the next, say, 3-4 days. You cannot drink that water with high TDS of that level. The protein content is very, very high. Therefore, now what do? They put this through an RO process, and from 1200, we reduce it to, say, under 400 or 500 in order to make it portable. Remember Delhi and the Supreme Court judgment, they said if it is over 500, I will ban it. You have to bring it to a level of about 500, they said, when it comes to TDS. As long as we continue to draw water, this is the story. As long as you continue to draw water from deep bore wells, this water crisis will continue. You cannot stop this because all the pollution that happens, whether it's heavy metals like arsenic, fluoride, iron, nitrates, all of those things, aluminum, for instance, all of these things come only when you take borewell water. You use surface water from a river, from a pond. There is no such thing as arsenic. Arsenic or fluoride. Now, come to the Gangetic Basin. You go to say, Banaras, or you go to Balia, near Banaras. The highest incidence of cancer caused by water comes in this region of Banaras and Balia. Why? Because the arsenic levels in water are at the count of 10, when it can't be more than 0.1, 1,000 times more as presence of arsenic in water. Now you go downstream to Hooghly, to Calcutta and beyond, you will find that the water level, the arsenic level is not as much as the iron level. Fluoride level is very high in, say, Nalgonda district and such other parts of Andhra. So depending upon the region in India, we have heavy metals coming, and you can stop that. How? Use as much as you can of rainwater. We'll also have to continue to see that we treat TDS, but there are different ways of doing it beyond RO. We'll have to see how we improve recovery efficiency of RO plants. That's another story. If, for example, and I'll stop with this, if let's say I'm buying 200,000 liters a day of water at, say, 10 paisa per liter. And when I put it through the RO process, let's say I get only 100,000 liters. It means what? The other 100,000 becomes RO reject water. And that means at 10 paisa, it's approximately 18 lakh rupees that I'm losing. If I can reduce that by half, I can save you 9 lakh rupees at an investment of 20 or 22 lakhs that you make. And you get your money back in about 2 or 2.5 years with an IRR, therefore, of about 40 to 45% if you're an investor. Do you see where I'm connecting from a natural resource to the economic viability of the ecology itself? Over to you, Sujat.
But then, sir, talking about, this particular thing, like you mentioned that in Bangalore, you experience a different level of water crisis. And then there are other places where people do not really, come across the water crisis. So do you also think that this crisis is still largely invisible and also unevenly experienced across the regions, which is actually leading the delayed action until it becomes probably acute for the larger set of people?
Wow, tough one. Is this crisis largely invisible, you're saying? Okay, I'll put it like this to you, and I'll make it very, very brief. It is experienced consistently, let me assure you, across the geographic spread of India, across its 770 districts. You go to Assam, Upper Assam, Lower Assam. You go to the east of Assam, into the hills of Nagaland, Dimapur, and places like that. Everywhere you find this problem. Trust me on this. I worked in parts of Lower Assam, and I find the same problem. In the water-abundant parts of the west coast, for example, Goa and Mangalore, Kochi, Bombay, of course, all of this receives by and large over 2,000 mm of rainfall, which means if you have a house of, say, 1,000 square feet, just 1,000 square feet, you will get about 2 lakh liters of water that you can harvest as rainwater. In how many months? In about 4 months. So where is your problem? How do I store that water, I say, and use it in the non-rain months is the challenge that comes about. It's not about water availability, therefore. Also, it is not about water itself, it's about water management. How do I smartly do it in a way that I use most of these 4 or 5 months of the rain months in a way that I do not take any external water, and then I put as much water as possible into an open well or whatever else that can hold water for me for use in the non-rain months. That is the key in such parts where I have relative water abundance, I would say. Most of the parts where water management is not a problem, well, it's compounded by the nature of soil, the ability of soil to absorb water, of course, the uneven distribution of rainfall in different parts. There is a man who wrote a book in 1995, I think, Christopher, somebody or the other. It's called Alexander Frater, his name is, Frater. The book was called Chasing the Monsoon. I would recommend every one of you who is listening to this to please buy that book. It's available, I'm sure, on Amazon, and read that book. You must read another book written by a man called Jacob, dear friend also, who wrote a book called Jal Yatra in 2005, I think Penguin published it. You must read that book also. By the way, Sujal, I am putting out a book, as you know, as I told you a couple of weeks ago. And that is also covering a certain aspect of India. India is phenomenal in that sense, but then we must know how to deal with the challenges that we have before us.
Right. Yeah, I did read about that book and it sounds really interesting. So yes. But then
should be out, I think. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So coming back to the dependency on groundwater. You mentioned earlier that we extract the groundwater. Now, I have this question that to what extent do you think India's urban development it is dependent on the unsustainable ways of groundwater extraction? And are we building on a resource that is already in a decline?
Absolutely. First, I will start with that second question. Are we building on a resource that is declining? What declining? It is non-existent today in many parts. In many, what do you call them, tehsils and talukas and blocks of a district, it is declared water critical, right? And in those parts, you are not allowed actually to put a borewell. Who cares? Everywhere I'm seeing, even in such water critical parts, zones, there are plenty of such borewells that are going up in many cities. I'm not talking of any particular city. So this answer to your second question, are we building on a resource that's already in decline? I will say an emphatic yes. The second is this: our dependence on groundwater across India is crippling. Across the land, everywhere, in every state and in every city, I must tell you. The total groundwater, for example, that we extract is about 70 or 75% of all water that is demanded for either cities, that is your buildings, your residential, commercial, industrial, etc., and agriculture, right? Remember one more thing. Of the total annual renewable water that we use in India, we have only about 3% that is for industrial water. Only 3%. About 7% is commercial and residential water that we use mostly in our cities. And our cities are only about 4% of India's landmass. No more than 200,000 square kilometers. You can check it out on any website. Now, what is the other factor? 90%, therefore, if I leave out this 3 and 6 or 7%, 90% is cultivation water. Now, how do I reduce cultivation water by 50% or 30% or whatever? Then I know how to reach the right numbers. So you will say, you told me in percentage, you tell me in total numbers. The urban water today of about 7% is about 40 billion liters per day. 40 billion liters. Of this, 60% is groundwater, Sujal. 60% is groundwater. It could be 70%. Who cares now? The number is just another number. That's it, another statistic. Now, industrial water, to my mind, is not a big issue. It's only 3%. It puts out high pollution, high effluents. There are ways of treating them. They're high. They're high on cost also for treatment. But I think we should not worry too much about industrial water. What we should worry about is groundwater for agriculture. The rice that you eat, the wheat that you buy, all the millets and everything else. You think you're buying organic stuff? Wrong. You are buying things that are coming out of water, which are high on all of those heavy metals that I listed earlier. What should you do therefore? Well, if you buy it and then you do some, washing with potassium permanganate and such things, you can possibly delude yourself into thinking that you're eating safe foods. You are not. So you must see what we can do as a country to reduce our groundwater use as much as we can. It's not in your hands or mine. It's to do with policy. It's to do with, collective action from communities in panchayats. We have 250,000 panchayats with 600,000 villages. It's a humongous task. For 30 years, I've been defeated. I've been working on these things from about 1990 or 91. And I can tell you it's been impossible to make any change at all. So if you ask me, this reliance on groundwater, which started around 1980 with the dreadful bore wells, is a scourge that we are not able to avoid. We just don't know how to get out of this bore well disease. For example, if you go to Francophone world, like say France itself, Morocco, Algeria, Chad, many of the French-speaking countries of Western Africa or of Laos, all of those French colonies, one-time French colonies, there is a ban on use of bore wells. I don't know if you know that. You know, what can you and I do in this country to ban bore wells? Very simple. First, harvest as much as you can of roof water, which can be used almost directly as drinking water. Surface water has to be used as much as you can, which can be collected in ponds and many other things like that. If you focus on it, if your government helps you focus on it, if you're a farmer, if you're in an apartment, for example, how much can you have to first stop thinking about bore wells and do everything else beyond that. How do you do without bore wells? How do you do without tankers, which is bore wells again? How do you do without long distance water, which is very, very energy intense? This is your challenge before you.
Yeah, but
I'm taking a lot of time, but I have to tell you. Yeah.
If I speak about Pune, sir, if I speak about Pune, there are certain areas in Pune where the entire societies or maybe the entire region is dependent on tanker waters. As in, it is a routine. Every day morning they would have X number of tankers coming to their society, and the entire societies, entire communities are only using tanker water since many years. So, I mean, this is really, what you are telling is maybe doable, but then, like I said, are we ready for it? That is a question. So, coming back to our original discussion, talking about demand and supply, do you also think that we are overly focused on augmenting the supply while we completely neglect the demand side, efficiency, or the behavioral change?
Well, I'll put it like this. You go to your city in Pune or in, say, Coimbatore. I know in this city, we have one small department of the Water Supply Board, which is called the Office of the DSM, Demand Side Management. Go and ask these fellows, as I have done many times, as to what they do there. They will tell you nothing. I don't know why, but for 70 years, we have somehow avoided talking about demand side management, which is so much cheaper. For example, to generate, say, 1 billion liters of water per day, 1 BLD, is going to cost us some mega tons of money. Against that, if I were to look at some demand side management in my house or my apartment, I will find that it costs almost nothing for the government. I can give you specific examples, but I'll avoid. I mean, to go back to the same example of 150 flats in an apartment and therefore 100,000 liters, if you simply put a set of aerators, which are pressure compensated, you got the right professional to come and do it, you will see that you'll drop easily about 15% to 20% of your water demand. Without compromising comfort, you'll get all the water that you need, but it will be governed such that it becomes smarter, more efficient for you. Why don't you do that? Why don't you digitize, for example, in a way that you gain again another 10% of water? And then how do you ensure that all the wastewater in your system is treated, put back into your dual flush tanks or whatever, and the rest of the water, another 50% or so, is treated to drinking grade water in a way that you achieve net zero water. This is what you need to be doing. Augmenting supply, Sujal, for me means that we focus on demand side, not behavioral change. You also mentioned behavioral change, by the way. We don't need behavioral change. We need demand side efficiency. And trust me on this, governments will stop spending. It will come down by about 70, 80% public expenditure on water. Today, you know the disease in lakes, in rivers, we pollute every damn thing. We only think supply side. We have to stop thinking supply side.
So I mean, you mentioned digitizing these things. On that note, I would like to ask you, do you think that the technology and the innovation, like, these days we talk about IoT and we talk about AI and we talk about smart monitoring and things like that. So do you think that these will play a transforming role in water management? I mean, can that
Okay.
happen?
All right. I'll put it like this to you then. To me, when you use the word technology, quote unquote, it is what, to me, it is what has been done by the Mughals to store potato or onions. Today they are talking about it. I was in some conference where somebody was talking about how you can save, how you can create storage for potatoes or onions without energy. This was done then, in the time of Akbar. It is to do with design. It is to do with how we go away from hydraulics and move into hydrology. This is all not technology. This is about knowing, if I'm an engineer, how to hold back water and not drain water from my ecosystem. Can I do that? Now, the other challenge I'm having, at least, is, and I must mention this to all of you here who are young professionals in the water industry. There are unfortunately too many startups who are looking for investors. It's not at all a healthy sign. All they want to do is to take some problem statement that they define and monetize and commercialize every element of water. A new generation of entrepreneurs in the water sector are growing up, shall we say, with this need to grow their profits massively. Over the last 10 years alone, where I have been part of some of these juries for investment and so on, I have seen this increase of about 15% CAGR in the water sector translating into investments that investors are making with these fellows who come up with some water technology, they call it, right? There are stories, but we don't have the time for it today. All of it has been only in the urban water management sector of commercial, industrial, residential, etc. None of these fellows want to actually transform water management in the agricultural sector, which is 90% of total water use in India. Remember that. So if you are if you are young entrepreneurs, give us solutions in the domain there and not in the urban water segment. Sujal.
Right. So sir, if we were to, really rethink the water systems from first principles, what fundamentally needs to change according to you? What should be at the core of this transformation?
Wow. At the core, what should be the transformation? If you ask me like that, I will say 2-3 things. One will be, how do I use surface water? And there's a lot of rainwater in India. Second, how do I use every liter of water that I am using back again after I have treated it in at least the urban segment? In the cultivation water segment, there are other solutions, but in the urban segment, I'm saying. Third, address the serious need for reducing cultivation water by 50% across these 750, 770 districts that we have in India. And, if you say, okay, what is that one single thing? I will say, well, it's like this. You want water, you, meaning as a water consumer, you want water, you need to create systems for treatment that you do in your home or your apartment or office. Do not depend on the government to give this to you, right? Do not say, well, it's my privilege to use this water and send it out. I'm paying taxes, let the government do. Do you ask the government to, pay for your son's education when you want to send him to an engineering college? You don't, right? You don't even think about it. Why would you do that when it comes to water infrastructure? The next is this. You said central, Sujal. If you start thinking of cost, you will end up in a mess less than 10 years from now. That is, if somebody gives you a solution and says, so what's the cost? I can tell you, you are not doing any good for yourself. All you must remember is, if you're spending any money for such water infrastructure into the future or for future water infrastructure, I can guarantee you that you'll get your money back in about 2 or 3 years. How is the question of who you go to as professionals go? That's a promise I'm giving you as a guarantee. Therefore, if there is a single thing, Sujal, and this I'm saying as a concluding note, water is never about water. Water is about water management. Water is not about water. Water is about energy. If we remember these two things, a lot of the solutions will fall into place for us. Over to you, Sujal.
Yeah, yeah. So I would like to tell the audience, if you have any questions, you can put those questions in the Q&A box. And once we are done with the conversation with Hariharan sir, he would be taking up all these questions one by one. Coming back to
Great.
you, sir, you said water is not only about water, it is also about energy. So that brings me to my next question. How do you see the water energy carbon nexus? I mean, where
Wow.
can
Yeah.
where can optimizing water systems contribute meaningfully to energy efficiency and also decarbonization?
Sensible question. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? There's an organization called SEEM, SEEM, which is based in Trivandrum. It's a very you must join that society, Sujal. I'll introduce you to the right people there. Now, SEEM has several chapters across South India. I don't know if they have more in the north. And in a journal that they produced, very, very distinguished, very exclusive journal for energy professionals, I wrote a piece, 5,000 words of it, if you please, on the water G nexus. And one of the important things I found in maybe 2008 is that Sheila Dixit was the chief minister. She invited a few of us from CII to do a study to ascertain the energy profile of Delhi. It wasn't still called NCR. Now, what we did at the time is went through a wonderful Kamal Mittal from Delhi, from Paharpur Cooling Towers, was also part of the study for us. He was leading it actually from CII. You know what we found? 52% of Delhi's energy was for water, transportation of water, borewell water, some other pumping and whatever else of water. You go to your city, Pune, which is very, undulating, or you go to our Central Raj city, I am certain that the daily energy demand will be over 55%. What does it tell us? We have to focus on water first and efforts of the kind that I discussed or we all discussed today in a way that we bring down the use of energy. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to battle this. What does use of energy mean? Look at this. For every 1,000 units or megawatt hour of energy, MWH, you are using about 30,000 liters of water in a thermal plant. Wow, look at this. So I use 1,000 units of electricity in my house. It becomes 4x, about 4,000 liters. And that 4,000 units, 4,000 kWh, which means 4 into 30,000, 120,000 liters of water. I can give you the math for another one, and for want of time, I'll just give you the last sentence, Sujal. In your house, if you're using 500 units of electricity per month, 6,000 units of electricity, therefore, is 7,20,000 liters of water in central India where your thermal plants lie. What are we doing? Somebody was telling me in a meeting on Saturday last that, in metro, in Delhi metro, they are using air systems for cooling towers instead of using water-based systems. I said, if you're using air-based systems, your energy level is going up. That means what? You're transferring your water requirement to some place in the central part of India. While if you're using a water-based system for your CTs, you can possibly use reused or treat and reuse systems in order to see that we're doing it right there. He wasn't willing to engage with me, this gentleman. He's also an ISHRAE member who is from DMRC or whatever. My point is this, that wherever we are doing such systems for cooling towers, don't go for air-based systems and delude yourself into believing that you are being water efficient. You are not. It's like buying an EV, electric vehicle you buy. Well, my car is, excuse me, you are using dirty power, which means you're using 30,000 liters of water from a thermal plant. Like Switzerland said, you want to buy an EV, then you have to have your own solar power for charging.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So
we forget these simple things, as nexus goes between water and energy.
Yeah. So, sir, coming back to the cities, do you think that we have designed our cities? I mean, we have designed our cities in a way that makes them water inefficient by default, And do you think, is there any mechanism to reverse that?
How do we, our cities, okay, if your question now will therefore be whether cities by default you're saying, is it? Okay, if I were to put
Yes,
it
sir.
like that, let me answer it in another way. Interesting question. Your question, if I understand you right, is have we designed our cities that makes them water efficient, water inefficient by default over the last
Inefficient.
50, 60 years? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
If I look at it like that, let's talk of urban planners of the 1960s or 1970s. You know, when for instance, many of our cities sort of developed beyond the old parts of it.
Right.
Barring the exception of a Chandigarh or one or two other cities like that, Amravati could be one, where it was built from nothing. You know, all our cities have existed. We are a civilization. We are not a country. 7,000 years we've been around. So all of the old towns have only gotten to enlarge. So what did planners do, urban planners do? We stopped thinking around 1970. We fossilized into replicating and doing exactly what was done in the previous 50 years. We did not learn or anticipate the future in 1970. It's easy for me today to be harsh and judge them on, with hindsight that we have today. But you must remember this. They knew, if I was, let's say, in 1970, India clearly knew that there will be a surge in population and that we will be at some twice that number by 2000. We knew that, right? We did not do anything about it as town planners in India. In others, Singapore responded to it, for example. There was simply no way that those solutions of the past 50 years at that point could offer directions for the future that was emerging for them. I could say the same today. That is, all of those things that we have learned in the last 50 years are not going to give us precedence for what is emerging or coming up as challenges in the next 50 years. And therefore, are we going to be responsible as urban planners to achieve certain things which, as legacy, which will ensure that our children and grandchildren have at least a decent environment? I don't know. So what has happened to us? If I go back to our fathers, we have a terrible legacy that those engineers, supply side engineers, I call them, of the 1960s and 70s left with us. We don't want our children to say in 2070 that we left them a bad legacy of engineering. We don't want to do that. Therefore, my mind, Sujil, we have to act, and we have to act very quickly to ensure that we create solutions. At the point of use, do not ask somebody to supply you water. Do not ask somebody to supply you energy. I'm looking for a day when I can have a small box which can produce the 5 kilowatts or whatever that I need in my house. You know, if I have something like that, wow, I don't need that mangle of millions of cables or wires and whatever else that we have that brings energy to my house, right? And like your washing machine, if I bought something like that and put it in my house and I met my own needs, modularly speaking, I think we will do a lot of things better. So technology can help in those ways. But is that happening? I would say no. Go to every one of your cities, including your city, which has got Mula and Muta. Hyderabad has Musa, the Musa River. We have Arkavati, Vishwavati, Pinakini in Bangalore. We have Tones and Rispana if I'm in Dehradun. The Nag River in Nagpur, for instance. In Vadodara, I have the Vashisht. Every river is polluted. Kuam and Adyar in Chennai, for instance. I can go on with an endless list of such things. But what are we doing about making it not just what if it, how do I, in our culture, in our religion, we pay, we pay respect for water, right?
Yes.
What do we do in real life? Why do we treat it as a commodity when we think it is sacred as far as our chants and prayers go? I've never understood this.
Yeah. Do you also think that there are any global learnings, that we can maybe adopt or learn something from them? Like, let's say, for example, we talk about China's 3 red lines policy. Do you think India can realistically adopt something from there?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned China. There are very few countries in the world, I keep saying this, which can be comparable to India, right? People will tell me about that dreadful example now of Israel. And they'll tell me we should be emulating. Israel is 9 million people. And it is 3,000 square kilometers, as a region. your Delhi is today, I think it's about 3,200 square kilometers, right? I'm saying, why will we take Israel as an example? I'm glad you took China. I've heard, what I will say is this. China has done a phenomenal job with what you call the three red lines policy. But that policy of three red lines, and I'll request all viewers here, participants here, to go and check it out on the Google for what three red lines China is about. It's not just about water. For example, one three red lines policy is on financial regulatory metrics to avoid excessive borrowing. That's also part of three red lines, for example. Now, when it comes to three red lines and water, they talk about, which we also should be talking about, which we did in this last 1 hour, they talk about controlling water usage. That is, if I'm using this much as water in the country, not individually, can I reduce it? That's one. Second is, what is it that I need to do to improve efficiency of water management? We talked about it also today. The third is, how do we limit pollution into our lakes, into our rivers, everything that we do? We take water from our apartments, quietly, no one is looking, we put it into a nala. Is this what we want India to be? It pains me to be talking about these things, but there are ways of doing it. India can clearly adopt such processes across districts and talukas and, of course, cities. It needs a few directions as regulatory directions from Mahua or from the National Building Code. Part 9 of the National Building Code talks about it. I've been talking to Mr. V. Suresh. I met him last Saturday also. Again, I pleaded last Friday. I pleaded with him, please do some revision to Part 9 in NBC 2026 revised that is coming up. And at ISHRAE, I think we must all join together. I was mentioning this to Ashish Rakeja also when I met him on Friday or Thursday, I think. And we must see that we are able to, together bring about that change on a few things that we need in order to make the water regulation, national regulatory system working much better. Across many challenges in India, the one single defect, you know this and I know this, that one single defect that we find is governance. Without governance, without a strong government, all of what we are talking about is a lost cause. And that's where China wins. China has been amazing. They are 50 years ahead of India.
Yeah. I think there's a joke that we Indians, we are only afraid of two things. One is Danda and the other one is God. So one of these should work for us, when it comes to water as well. So, sir, talking about, the data and actually whether or not there is a visibility for this data, do we really have a reliable real-time data to manage the water effectively at city level, or are we still operating with limited visibility? As in, is this something which is out there in public? Do we have this data?
Sujal, before we take that question, should we ask our viewers and participants to see if they want to share some thoughts with us? I won't say just raise questions. Many of them are experts themselves. I can see people like Ajit Seshadri are here, wonderful man. Anand Darishwamy is here. So I'm saying that if there are people here, Nivedita is here, I'd like to see if any of these wonderful professionals will want to ask us any questions.
So
is that right, Sujal?
Yes, that is absolutely all right. There are 7 questions already in the Q&A box. Do you want me to read them for you?
Lovely. Yeah. Oh, I didn't see it. Just thank you for alerting me. Really, will you? One moment. Where do I see on the chat box? Is it or on the Q&A?
Q&A.
Q&A. One moment. Let me see where Q&A is. Whiteboard.
So we will read out. So we will read out for you, sir.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Can linking of rivers help? Fantastic question. Thank you, Srinivas, for asking that question. Let me put it this way. We tried that. Between Godavari and Krishna, it was tried. Today, Chennai gets water, nearly 300 mld from that very expensive project. But think of it like this. When you link one river to another, you know what you're doing? You're disrupting the entire chain of natural linkages that each of the localized zones of natural ecosystems have enjoyed for many millennia, right? Or 5,000 years, 10,000 years, maybe much more than that. Our human span talks about 5,000, 10,000 years. But for natural ecosystems, we are talking in terms of million years. So what we are doing as interlinking of rivers is a terrible thing to do. And you can look up the website. I don't want to waste too much time. And there will be enough information that you will get, Srinivas, to tell you that interlinking is a very bad idea that politicians have taken up because it's very high on, it's very investor friendly. They make a lot of money. They want projects which will mean 20,000 crores, and you know why. I don't want to say more on that. Again, one more question. RO water TDS is below 40. Is it causing bone erosion? Wow, it does. For example, that RO system that you use in your kitchen, which has most often 10 or 12, consistently, if you used only that water, like a Jain monk, Jain Muni, you drank only that water, you did not eat any food which has all the minerals, then you're right about bone erosion. What happens to us? What is all these companies, RO companies, depending upon? That you will anyway eat your food. So you are not going to suffer bone erosion and such drastic things. What did that Arvind government do in 2015 or something? They banned. And all these fellows from the Tatas to whoever else, they all went to court. And the court said, the Supreme Court said, ban. That's it. I will not allow RO water in Delhi. Unfortunately for us, that has not moved to other cities. What did the government do, Srinivas, at that time, 2022, I think the Supreme Court, again, these fellows went, the Tatas went. Tatas will say we are great philanthropic institutions, but they have maimed this country, from Jamshedpur and, huge tribals to everything else. They are great PR masters to tell us that it's a great company that they run. What did they do? They went and again approached the court. The Supreme Court said, and that is when I mentioned it earlier, they said up to 500, you bring it. And that means that in your system, now when they sell a system in Delhi, what they're doing is they're putting a small box in order to see that they mineralize the water. It is cheating that they're doing. Many of you as water professionals, we know what an activated carbon filter and a pressure sand filter is. They help to remineralize. But that means you have to do it in large scale, not with a small box. They just managed to overcome some hurdle that the Supreme Court is putting up. So you're right about that. The third one, can the surface water and sea, when rains can be tapped? Well, how do you do that? See, water blends too quickly for it. You can't, therefore, unless there is some technology that comes someday, Srinivas. Chakradhar, how can we reuse RO reject water for domestic commercial works? You cannot. You have to add at least 1:6 times normal water before you put it up in landscape. I remember a project I did in 2004, apartments, and we needed about 80,000 liters. And we had, therefore, something in that case, I think we had about 10,000 liters of reject water, RO reject water. So what did we do with that? We added regular water and then used it for gardens. If you use that reject water directly for your plants, they will shrivel and die. If you took that reject water, you drank one glass, 200 ml of water, you drank it, in 45 minutes, you'll land up in a hospital. I'm not joking. What are the ways, and you'll read more about it on websites. What are the ways to reduce dependency on water, particularly from an industrial point of view? I already mentioned that anonymous attendee. I have a challenge with these anonymous attendees. They never put their names. I don't know why. All I will say is focus on surface water, focus on ensuring that you reduce use of RO or increase the RO recovery efficiency. You want to know more? Talk to Sujal or to Mr. Senthil Raj, and then they will connect you to me. In water, the total hardness has increased in TDS. This is mainly chloride, magnesium. What is the best method? Obviously, you're a water professional, Mr. Anonymous Attendee. You want an answer for that? Talk to me offline, and I will see how I can help you get an answer for that. And it's not too difficult, but I must tell you that you must go beyond the regular membrane process for RO. Keep that in mind. If you want to really beat hardness, and hardness is about, you're right about magnesium and chloride, but it's not a discussion we can take here because there is want of time. How to renovate lakes? Fantastic question. Whole different subject. I mentioned it only in passing today. The new water policy, which has not still been announced, meaning declared by the central government, the bill has not been passed, was proposed in 2023. You must please read the new water policy. India has had 5 such water policies from 1983 or 84, right? Please understand, if you are in the water business, you had better know what the water policies were and how they have evolved. And I think this 2023 policy is one of the finest. What the Prime Minister has also said is that in every district, I need to have, I think he said 3 lakes in each district. We have 770 districts. And he has even defined, I think, 2 hectares to a district. If I take, say, even 2 meters to 2 hectares, You know the quantum of water I will hold, 200 billion liters. This is what you should do to hold surface water. And in the process, when it percolates, it ensures that it reduces your total dissolved solids or all the metals and such things that exist in the shallow aquifer, and therefore at the percolated level into the deep aquifer. Remember that. And if you think you can work on those things, please call us. We are working on some 4 or 5 lakes today. It needs money. The problem with working on lakes is it needs money. And if you go to the government, tender is a problem. Mr. Raj is looking at the clock. I think we're running out of time. Yes, Sujay.
Yeah,
I answered all of them. I think, are there any more?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
I
sir.
think
You have
in
answered.
Marina Beach, they
There's
dig sand and give drinking water. Yeah, then groundwater mixing high density. No. Srinivas, you please talk to me offline. I'll explain it to you. There is no such thing. This is like those quacks who will tell you, I will come and find them to use a trick and say, I will give you water. Don't go by these things that you find. These are natural processes in certain areas. Don't think that it's a general phenomena across all beaches or seasides. It's not. You might have found it here in Chennai. If you're talking Marina, it must be Chennai that you are from. Over to you, Sujal.
Sir,
Yeah.
one question from my sorry. One
Yes,
question
yes,
from
yes,
my
please.
side.
Yes, please.
What is your opinion about desalination, sir?
Chennai gets 600 mld of water
Yes, sir.
from desal, right? Now, you know they run what? 40% of all desalination in the world is only in that Persian Gulf area of South KSA and Iran and everybody else because they don't have water. Now, what happens at the micro zone? See, typically, if you set up in Chennai, for instance, south of Chennai, you go about 4 kilometers into the sea. That is where they are located. There were many parameters that they did identify for the location of the selection of that area for the desal plant. However, if I am doing 600 mld, I'm putting out 3 times more, 2 billion liters of reject water, which is very high on salts. And that I'm mixing with the existing salt water or the seawater. What happens, therefore, with that high level of protein? Same as for humans. Millions of species, aquatic species, are dying. You cannot prevent or control that. If I was the chief minister of Chennai, say 5 years ago, and somebody said, don't do this desal plant, I would have said, go away. Give me a solution. Now, the solution exists. Mr. Raj, let me also tell you that Chennai, which needs today about 1400 mld, 1.4 billion liters, against our Bangalore's requirement of about 2.5 or 2.4 mld, whatever, a billion liters. I will say, what should Chennai do? Chennai has a beautiful, soil morphology, geomorphology. It holds water phenomenally well. That whole longitude, it's a longitudinal city, it's a coastal city. It's about 70 or 90 kilometers, I think, from the edge of the north to the edge of the south. And they have 3 beautiful reservoirs created in the time of the Cholas and the Pallavas. You know that there is a large lake, I forget the name of it, in the south, in Chengalpat area, which was created in about 1,000 years ago now. If you're living in 2026, it was created around 1020 or so by one of the Chola kings. It was to celebrate his birthday or some such thing. But my point is, they knew how to store water. We have lost that one. It's not a skill. It's an ability to decide that my city needs 15 times, 20 times the water that I need for a day. Do you know how much water as storage Bangalore has got? Not even half a day. If there was a terrorist, and I'm giving somebody an idea, if he went and just broke one of our Kaveri pipelines, somewhere about 40, 50 kilometers before Bangalore, finished. For the next 5 days, we don't have water until they fix the pipe. It's ridiculous what we have as a situation. We have stopped thinking water. You go to Chittorgarh Fort. Wars were common in those days. In 1500, they built it. You know what they have done? This is in Rajasthan. They built it in a way that they have 500 times their daily storage. 500 times.
Wow.
Yeah, you go to Jodhpur. We talk about that Cape Town and the one major crisis they had. Cape Town is smaller in terms of population. They are, I think, 4 million against Jodhpur's 5 million. Not Jaipur, Jodhpur I'm talking. You go to Jodhpur, you've got 5,000 lakes you've got. Who created them? They didn't exist. Somebody actually done and made them happen, right? In Cape Town, they have a beautiful natural watershed. If you took a photograph of Cape Town, you will see a huge cliff and then the water is coming down into the ocean.
Yeah.
They don't want to hold it and they want to whine and cry about how we don't have water, please give us money. Excuse me, what do you do with money if you don't know what to do as solutions? So you see, Mr. Raj, it's not about desal, it's about governance. We do not want to do, in Chennai, for example, just now we are doing with INHAF, which is Ahmedabad-based organization. I'm also a trustee there. What we are doing is we have taken up a climate action study of the city. And we are saying just one well, open well of 1.5 meters by 10 feet. That's it, 3 meters. For every plot, big, small, we don't know. Every plot must have. In Coimbatore, you know what Tuller did, right? Tuller has still been working, right? And I know this lady very well. She's an industrialist. And I've had reason to know her for other reasons. Tirutuli, it's called. And what they do, Sujal, is they've been working on restoring water to a point where after 20 years today, administrators in the government listen to her. They're willing to listen to her on a few things that can be done. Not like Coimbatore has not had its water problems, but they have had management deficit. Like you have, like we have. We have to work on that constantly. People are not willing to work on it. That is our problem. It's the opportunity also, like that management guru said, C.K. Prahlad, every such deficit is an opportunity provided you know how to get the government to do it. You cannot do it, unfortunately. You had a question, I think, on the built environment. And that built environment question is about things that are about heterogeneous values. If you and I, and some 3-4 of us, we're all in one company and we have one CEO, we share the same value, CEO instructs, we do. But if I'm in a community, you come and say, who the hell are you to come and tell me what I should do? Excuse me, right? So in a heterogeneous community, to get to making decisions in unison, tough, is impossible.
Very good.
Srinivas, thank you for those very lovely questions, but a lot of it lies, as I told you earlier, as I told you all, in the websites. Please look at websites. You put your question there, you'll get some, but it's not going to solve your problem. You've got to think through it. I keep telling many of the people who work with me, learn by doing. You'll make a few mistakes, hell with it. Make some mistakes, sometimes at the cost of your client, but make them in a way that you have become smarter and you're able to make communities water positive. Remember, only one thing is, water is never about water. I wrote this in a ADB document in 2003, I think. I was working on a slum in Dehradun, and we made that slum into a 24/7 community, right? I mean, we gave them water in a nala, in a pipe. I mean, that sort of thing. And without water from borewells. That model that we created was then replicated in a few more slums in Dehradun, right? So I'm saying, put management mantle in place, other things will work.
Right, right. Sir, when we talk about water, I mean, most of the times people talk about 3 hours or sometimes they talk about 5 hours. So recycling and reusing. Okay. So, I mean, do we only talk about it or is it really viable to largely adopt the circular water systems in Indian cities? I mean,
when you said CERs, you mean carbon energy reduction values? Is that CER credits? Is that what you said?
No. We talk. No. I mean, when we talk about water, we talk about 3 R's, like reuse, recycle.
3 R's. Okay. All right. So if I understood you right, the question is to do with.
I want to talk about the circularity in reuse. So we always talk about reusing and recycling, but is that the large adoption, is it really viable for the Indian cities per se?
See, I'll ask you like this. I mean, in turn, I'll ask you. See, when you see circularity, many such words have become buzzwords. They trend, like they say in social media.
Yeah.
If I want to either get your attention or I want to get money out of people, I will use some trend words or buzzwords like this to see that there is more that I get to say. And to my mind, unfortunately, and I'm not being cynical, I'm finding that these circular water systems are good to learn, good to hear about. They are only good as an idea. Actually, it will not lead us anywhere if we do not work on creating standards, guidelines to help solution seekers. See, for instance, you want a water solution to be done. What do? You will call some three people that you found on the websites or something, or some friend told you, and you will do an L1, L2 exercise on cost. But are you actually getting the right solution provider? 9 months after you have chosen somebody and he's installed and you have paid all the money, he refuses to take your calls. The system is not working and you don't know what to do. You therefore go to the person who referred this other fellow and say, hey, he's not coming over. What should I do? That is all you can do today. Can I give you a system where there is accreditation of solution providers? That is what India needs today. In fact, I have a system that I put together with some wonderful colleagues that I have worked with. I can share that with you, Sujal. Sujal, you're a good professional, and maybe you'll want to see how we can expand that to see that it works in different zones for solution seekers. This is not for solution providers. This is another problem when you're talking about circular economy and circular water systems and all that. There is no qualification today that you need to become a water professional. Anybody can become a water professional. How do you change that? Like you said rightly somewhere, intent is the key question. What is trending is not what we want, right?
Right.
There is really no, you talked about value in the beginning. There is really no inherent value that is being generated to drive these frontiers of solutions for water or for sustainability. How do we do that?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, you know what happens? You go to a company. Why? As a professional yourself, when it comes to safety, and you say, no, I want, let us say, a tank of, say, 100,000 liters, as part of your safety system. Somebody, one of the managers will say, madam, why do you want 100,000 liters? I'll give you 50,000 liters. But why? Because he's thinking short term. He's thinking of, saving that extra money on the capital cost that a tank will cost him, right? You get it? I'm sure you face such situations with clients. Madam, we will not put 100,000. I'll put 50,000. After all, uska sign kar do, please. Right? Now, isn't it? It's real. I'm not talking of a problem that doesn't exist.
Yes.
You're all from ISHRAE, Mr. Raj. You are a champion HVAC professional. You know what is happening in the air conditioning market today? Government of India has said 10 years, your AC must be scrapped. Okay. Yeah. Now, if they catch you using it in a company, they will come and slap some notice and penalty. So what happens to a company? Company will call Daikin and say, sir, my system is more than 10 years old. Please, take it away and give me a new system. Yeah. Just now it's happening to somebody's company. You also know that person. I'm not going to tell you who it is in Noida. What happens, therefore, that old AC, which is 10 or 12 years old, you know what happens? It goes to the scrap market.
Right.
The condenser, every one of those parts is taken. They are reassembled for another 1.5 ton system in the shady market, in the black market. And who is using it? I was listening to some chap who is doing some work in the Dharavi area, and he says in Dharavi, every house which has got air conditioning gets only this from the scrap market.
From the scrap.
It's highly energy inefficient, but it is 50% the financial cost.
Cheaper.
What are we doing? Is this the kind of cooling we are going to do into the future? There are codes, standards, procedures, protocols, SOPs, nothing. Mr. Raj, if you are, sorry, Sujal, last sentence, allow me a last sentence there. In the CoOL Conclave in Coimbatore, we see, Sujal, you are a thinking person, how you can posit some of these sessions, get some thinking speakers. We need to stir the industry. 27,000, ladies and gentlemen here, all attendees here, there are 27,000 members that ISHRAE has got. By far the largest such industry association in India today. Right? What are we doing with this powerhouse of information, knowledge, and expertise that you represent? That's the question I will ask back of you, Sujal.
Yes, sir. So we are definitely going to stir these conversations at CoOL Conclave as you suggested, and hopefully I'm sure you are also going to be part of the same. But then I think water is still a blind spot. a lot of importance is being given to energy and carbon, which is also a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing, but then water also needs attention, and it still remains a blind spot in the boardrooms, and this needs to change, right?
I agree with you. You know, Mr. Raj, I'm
Yes,
sure
sir.
you have faced this problem. You will go to one company, you're meeting some middle-level manager, you're telling him, please don't use what is it called? A regular conventional air conditioning system. I will give you an IDEC.
Inverter,
He
non-inverter.
says, no, sir, my management will not accept it. You are telling him the capital cost will fall by 30%. Your OPEX cost will fall by 70%. You know that in IDEC, right?
Yeah.
He says, no, sir. Clearly, we have been told we only want VRV, sir. You go and fix it, sir. You know the challenge with VRV. I don't have to explain. Many of your professionals here also understand that. Now, to go to her question on, you called it a blind spot in boardrooms. I'll put it like this to you. No, many of us in the water segment, at least, have been saying that water has to move from the boiler room to the boardroom. It has not happened. Companies don't act. I still talk to senior managers and in companies who don't want to use rooftop harvested rainwater for drinking. I can't take a name in a public group like this. There is a large, whatever kind of company in India which has multiple warehouses. There are one near Thane somewhere. We told them, look, we'll give you 40 million liters of water and therefore make you net zero, on water. You know what they said, sir? We don't want all that. Please give us what is required for us to fulfill our mandate. There's another five-star hotel I know. They have hotels everywhere in India. I have a person who worked there for 43 years who's a very dear friend. You will also know him, Sizzle. I'll talk to you offline. You know what he says? He says, sir, the regulation is very clear. I am using, let us say, 50,000 liters of borewell water. I have 2 borewells in my hotel, five-star hotel. Five-star hotel. And all I have to do as mandate from the groundwater tribunal is I have to restore this the same amount of 50 KLD in some school or some identified area within 10 kilometers. That the NGWT, the Central Groundwater Tribunal, clearly says I have to just compensate that with water that I put back into the soil. What a stupid idea. Somebody came from one such hotel in Bangalore and told us, sir, I have something there. So we identified some 2 schools for them as an advisory. We are a non-profit, right? You know what the school's headmaster said? Sir, they're putting that water into the ground, sir. Good water from our school rooftop. They are 20,000 square feet. 20,000 square feet means 1,000 square feet is 1 lakh liters. So you can imagine how much water we are getting there. The HM requested, sir, don't put it inside. Please harvest it and give us a system. You know what this hotel's, whatever fixing fellow said? He said, sir, I don't listen to you. I listen to the hotel. They want this to be done for compliance. Wow. Now you know when you talk blind spot and boardroom discussions, that companies will find ways of skirting and manipulating such regulation. That's all they will do. And even if that regulation is good for them in the long run, they will not do it. Only they know how to create the right water infrastructure that you spoke about in the beginning, the intersect between water, energy, and infrastructure. That will serve their interest as a company over the next 30 years, 50 years. But who is to tell them that? This guy who is at the lower levels of whatever operating, executing levels, he is certainly not going to talk to the board of a nationally known, internationally known five-star hotel. Right? Sadly, these challenges remain at the middle level and lower level of management with no knowledge that is escalated to the top. It is only when it becomes a terrible crisis that the top management responds, and they will respond with band-aids. Aaj ka kuch karo, ek hafte ka kuch problem solve karo with short-term measures without recognizing the need for the long. I hope this will change.
Yeah. So water sustainability at times only becomes about, ticking a box, right? Very, very true, sir. So I think we are running short of time now, and
totally.
To close this, to conclude, we would like to know from you, last question, what are the top 2 to 3 interventions that can create maximum impact? Because nowadays, everything is about shortcut. Aapne jaise bola ki everybody thinks about, short term, and they need shortcuts. So if we have to give very, very important 2 to 3 interventions that can really create maximum impact, what would that be?
One is, if you're a manager, if you're a consultant, if you're who you are, please learn how to do a matrix of the cost of not doing. For example, I am Mr. Raj, and I have got, let us say, a 2 lakh square feet building that has come up for air conditioning, new building, right?
Okay, sir.
I show him the cost of doing VRV, cost of doing some other water-based system, cost of doing IDEC in financial terms and in energy terms. That is, sir, I have built you a VRV system after you're all professionals who understand this. For every 1 ton, if I were to expand it over the year, I would have spent approximately 25 to 12, about 300 units or so of power, 300 kW for every ton in a VRV system. Here, I bring it down by what? 90% it will fall. 7 units to every 35 units in an IDEC. So the cost of not doing, in terms of ecology, there is carbon and something else, as well as finance, must be showed to a management fellow. Now, unfortunately, if you're meeting a middle-level fellow who does not understand what you're talking about, we have a problem. And that is a problem I don't have a solution for. In fact, there are people here like Panchanathan, who is also a member of ISHRAE from Bangalore, who know this problem. They understand what we need to do, but they don't know how to tell the customer about it, the client about it. Client is not willing to listen. We know this. I mean, I can be open and forthright in a meeting like this because you're all consulting members. You're all consulting professionals. There are no corporate leaders here. I mean, Brookfield, for instance, I've spoken to people like, whatever his name is there. He says he's not able to do anything. I spoke to Malhotra in JLL. He's global engineering head, sits in London, Rajat Malhotra. He says, I'm not able to do, sir, he says. What can I do, Sujal, or you do? We know what we need, what is deficient.
Right.
I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
I believe, I really truly believe that with the people like Ashish there, many others there, who are leaders in you yourself, you know what you reflect upon. And then you see this huge Grand Canyon between what you think and what you accept from that customer of yours, because you have an office to run, your cost to bear. So we compromise sometimes, say, nahi yaar, client needs this, so we will do it. Come on, we have to stop that somewhere. Srikanth is sitting here. He's a wonderful ITech professional, Arun Swami Srikanth, who's also an ISHRAE member. He's also an ASHRAE member. And I can tell you that despite everything, he somehow manages to see that he is able to convince a few customers. He's not doing too much. He's not some great hotshot, consultant drawing hundreds of crores of rupees. No, but he's able to say, I will not do VRV. He's able to say that. So, yeah. So we need people like that who have the courage of their conviction and are able to say, what I am telling you as a professional is what will be good for your company. Sujal, you must do this in your own area too. Sorry, go on, please.
Yes, sir, certainly. I think these were a lot of great insights into what should be done and what can the interventions be like. Some of the takeaways from this entire conversation. One, first and foremost, I think the governance. We need to have a very strong governance in place, not only for water but energy or carbon or anything that we talk about in terms of sustainability and for the net built environment as whole.
Yeah.
And very, very important, I think you said the cost of not doing something is, I think it's a fantastic thing to think about. It's a lot of food for thought, because it is also the mind. It will also bring the mindset shift in people when we start thinking about cost of not doing something. It was a wonderful conversation with you, sir. I must tell this, that I feel really honored and privileged when you asked me to do it. To ask you the questions, and this was my first experience. Thank you so much for this opportunity, sir, and it was wonderful having this conversation with you.
Lovely. I must tell you all, though I don't remember the exact words, sometime in February, I think, Sujal writes to me, and The last we had spoken to was sometime in August last year after Indore. And
Yes.
Mr. Raj was also in Indore, I know. Now, she writes to me and says, some of the things that I had shared as reflections after some panel discussion in Indore stayed in her mind so much so that she writes to me 7-8 months later and says, those words ring in my ears still. That is Sujal for you. She's a reflective. I sometimes believe that professionals like her are not given due, what shall we say, opportunity to do things. Many others here that I work with, and I have the huge pleasure, Sujal, working with some fine young professionals who are all under 40. My rule is I will not work with you if you're over 50, So I have these wonderful professionals and I gain a lot of energy thanks to them and the work that they do. And it's very thinking, we are way ahead. See, many of the things Sujal, you are doing, Mr. Raj, people here like Srikanth are doing, are way ahead of their time. So we don't find enough people who are willing to take the ideas and solutions that we offer. It's a struggle. It's a struggle always when you're doing things that augur or herald a future that is going to be dire if you do not do the right thing today. That's the cost of not doing. Thank you so much. It's a great privilege being here with you all. I'm hoping that this will be listened to by many more people as a YouTube session, Mr. Raj. It's important that you take this to others from your chapter as well as the other 57 or 58 chapters across India.
Yes,
if you did that, I think there'll be some gain. Maybe you should break it into smaller parts. If you can send us a recording, Sujal, I will have my team to see if they can help you put them into small video shots that help you to, reach out to people. Outreach is about understanding that people have no attention span today. More than 2 minutes, nobody is listening, right? So how do I?
Yeah. True, yes. So I shall do that. We shall do that. Mr. Senthil will help me with the recording, and
yes, we will do that, Sujal.
We will definitely put it on YouTube, and I'll also share a copy with you so that maybe your team can help us make those small videos as you suggested. Thank you, sir. Indeed, once again, the pleasure and honor is all ours from the entire CoOL Conclave team, the entire committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will see you soon in Coimbatore at the Conclave. Right?
Most welcome,
sir. It's a fantastic concept. It's taken off very well, tier 2 level. To all of you here as members who are present, I must tell you that they have chosen to keep away from all these big bad cities. And they're doing it in tier 2 cities. And it's such a phenomenal attraction. 90% of the attendees at both Jaipur and Indore were from outside of Indore, which means that people are willing to come in and, participate and so on. Thank you so much, Sujal. We'll stop.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Dear participants, thank you, sir. Dear participants, thank you for making the CoOL Conclave webinar a success. We extend our sincere gratitude to all participants for joining today's CoOL Conclave webinar on Reimagining Water System in Indian Cities. Your enthusiastic participation and thoughtful engagement made the session highly successful. Special thanks to our esteemed guest speakers, Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekharan and Mr. Sujal Shah, who are generously made time for this webinar despite their extremely demanding schedule. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Senthilji. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks to all of you for offering a patient ear.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. I'll sign off.
Yes.
Okay, bye.